Okay, at this time, I call regular meeting to order. Mr. Santa Cruz, can you please lead us in the pledge?
Drinking water before bed burns 46 pounds in 2 weeks. If you are struggling to lose weight,
Okay, thank you. Roll call?
Madam President, Ms. Patricia Jimenez.
Present.
Governing Board Clerk, Ms. Maria Guzman.
Present.
Governing Board Member, Mr. Rudy Santa Cruz. Governing Board Member, Ms. Maria Hernandez. Governing Board Member, Mr. Harry Guerra.
Present.
Thank you. Next, we have adoption of the agenda for approval for January 27, 2022, regular governing board meeting. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Call for the vote.
Governing Board Member, Ms. Maria Guzman, may I please take your vote?
Aye.
Governing Board Member, Ms. Maria Hernandez, may I please take your vote?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Next, we have approval of January 13, 2022, regularly governing board meeting minutes. Is there a motion? Is there a second? I'll second it. Is there any changes or any comments? Hearing none, call for the vote.
Governing Board Member, Ms. Maria Guzman, may I please take your verbal vote?
Aye.
Governing Board Member, Ms. Maria Hernandez, may I please take your verbal vote?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Next, we have our governing board reports. Ms. Hernandez, do you have any report?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Myself, I have no report. Ms. Guzman, do you have a report?
I have no report.
Thank you. Mr. Santa Cruz, do you have a report?
I have no report.
Thank you. Mr. Guerrero, you have a report?
Yes, I do, Madam President. Just a couple of items. The Arizona School Boards Association, every couple of days, they put out information on bills that have been passed out of committee for consideration. So there were a couple that I thought would be interesting for us to start to track. The first one is House Bill 2174, which establishes what's called the Project Rocket Pilot Program. The purpose of this is to be able to recommend to the the State Board of Education, an annual achievement profile for each public school. Those that get a designation of A will receive more money appropriated per pupil if they have more than 60% of the students eligible for free and reduced lunches. So that means that, essentially, if we could get our rating up to an A, we would end up receiving more money if this gets passed through. Another one that I thought was really good for us to look at was on residency documentation. That's House Bill 2175. And that's going to be requiring that the policy of verifying residency of students prior to enrollment to be established by the State Board of Education rather than the Arizona Department of Education. So State Board will have more to say about how we are able to verify eligibility. And then the last one I'll share with you is SB Senate Bill 1164, School Audits of Financial Records and Budgets. Essentially, it states that the Auditor General, as well as the State Board of Education, will be reviewing audits, and that all audits will need to be posted publicly for anyone to be able to review them. So these are just three bills that I thought were, of interest that I think could be potentially changing for us. So with that, Madam President, I will end my report.
Thank you. Next is Superintendent updates. Dr. Ventura.
Madam President, tonight we have a video to recognize one of our students, our scholars. We're going to recognize Carlos Castillo. He is a 7th grade student at Isaac Middle School.
One second.
Proud assistant principal at Isaac Middle School. Go Cougars! Today I just want to recognize one of our amazing students that we have here at Isaac Middle School. So Carlos Castillo, he is one of our 7th graders, and he has been phenomenal throughout this school year. So from being one of the top kids in his core academics, top in iReady, he has been above and beyond in every way possible. Respectful, responsible, he's always helping out staff members and a lot of his peers.
My name is Carlos Castillo Martinez, and I'm 12 years old, and I go to Isaac Middle School. I like math obviously since I'm in Algebra 1, and it's just fun and easy to do sometimes, and I'm just good at it.
And recently, he actually won our school spelling bee here at Isaac Middle School, and then received 2nd place in the Isaac School District spelling bee at Mitchell. We're so proud of him and look forward to everything that he does this year and in 8th grade at Isaac Middle School.
Isaac Middle School is a good school since all the teachers are really easy to listen to and easy to learn from. And I would recommend other people coming to Isaac Middle School to come and learn.
I'd also like to recognize all of our Isaac staff, families, and students. This has been a very challenging time mitigating the health risks with COVID. As you know, if you've been watching the news, it's high positivity rates, not just within our community, but throughout the city, state, and nation. And with that data being so high, our schools have been relatively low. And still we continue to keep everyone safe. And that's because everyone's coming together, following our mitigation plans, getting vaccinated, and just doing everything they can to make sure that we can keep our schools open for our students and the community. So I want to thank everyone for doing their part in keeping everyone and themselves safe and healthy. And finally, I'd like to recognize Mr. Jason Cantonese. He is our algebra teacher at Pueblo del Sol. On the 25th, he was asked to participate as a panelist at a city conference called School Connect. And School Connect brings together nonprofits and city local businesses to talk about education, and we were glad to have Mr. Cantonese representing the Isaac School District. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Next is new business information, discussion, and action. Presentation, status update, COVID-19 data, review for the Isaac School District and governing reopening. Dr. Mario Ventura, Superintendent, and Ms. Stella Barraza, Community Health and Specialist. Ms. Stella Barraza.
Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board, and Dr. Ventura. I'm here to present the benchmarks and mitigation that we have for our transmission. Next slide. And as you can see, one of the main things is also focusing on our COVID-19 events. So I'll provide an update on that. On this next slide, you're going to see the table that we continue to use based on our mitigation strategies for the transmissions. And on the next slide will be the data that was released this morning by the Arizona Department of Public Health. And as you can see, it's the cases are slightly going down, but we continue to be in very, very high transmission with 38% positivity and just over 1,700 cases per 100,000 in Maricopa County. On the next slide, we can see the data that represents our community. This is for the Isaac School District community as a whole, not within our schools, but this is the community as a whole. Again, a slight decrease from 2,400, just over 2,400 last week that was reported to just over 2,200 cases per 100,000, and from 39.5% positivity to 38.24% positivity. This is the transmission data for the community of Isaac. On the next slide, it's our new way of reporting our cases. This is something that we just began doing this month. And we have a report that is in progress now, but you can see that cases that have been reported by location, we had 39 cases. Most of them are either positive cases at 48%, and 38% who are close contact at school, and just under 12% who are close contact within the school. On the next slide, it's the new this new reporting. One of the main things that happened was to increase the efficiency in which we were communicating with parents on a return date or next steps for when they reported a case to the school. And this is something that the schools are taking ownership and starting to practice. One of the main caveat components here has been that it is a lot faster in the way to provide next steps for the cases when they're reported. So something that the schools are definitely enjoying now. The next slide, it's again continuing our commitment with the multi-layer approach, and contact tracing is just one of them. Rapid testing, continuous education and guidance, and hosting of our events. And as you can see on the next slide, we continue to have our It's Our Shot, a campaign for students. And this is something that when students are fully vaccinated, they can come and show their card at one of our events, either get their second vaccine or just show up to our event and show that they have been fully vaccinated, and they receive their $100 gift card from that incentive. So far, we have had 691 students who have come and redeemed their $100, but we continue to encourage parents and staff to promote this to students, so we can. We know that there's probably more out there that who have been fully vaccinated and can come and redeem this incentive. On the next slide, it's our events that we have coming up. We have at least one per week happening. We have one right now actually at MKU. This Saturday, we'll have one at Isaac Middle School, and then we'll have one every Saturday after that. And on the next slide, any questions?
Thank you. Does the board have any questions? Ms. Barraza, I just have a quick question. I think it's amazing how we have 691 gift cards already. I'm out of curiosity. Has any of the families or kids said, what they use the gift cards to? No, I'm just curious. No.
Many that we were giving out early on, right before Christmas, they wanted to get gifts for you, and they mentioned for when they wanted to get for themselves, but also I remember one specifically that said he wanted to get a gift for his mom. So I thought that just touched my heart, and I remember that one mainly. But yes, I think it's just a variety. They're always excited to share that. I will share too that sometimes parents come and ask, and that they say, my kid was dragging me here today to get the card. Is that true? Are you guys giving out gift cards for this? And so that's always a delight as well. Thank you, Madam President.
Well, I just want to make a quick comment on this, because I had a meeting with one of my colleagues from Alhambra District this week, and they asked, and also from Phoenix Elementary, and they asked what we're doing with COVID. And I was very proud to say that we have a function every week, every weekend, and also they thought it was amazing that we're giving gift cards for our students. So they were like, really? I'm like, yeah. So I think this is awesome of what, I thank all of you and Ms. Barraza for, giving us this information. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, next we have approval to amend the governing board schedule. Dr. Mario Ventura, is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Ventura?
Madam President, tonight we're asking to amend or make changes on our governing board meeting schedule. We're asking that we cancel the meetings on scheduled for February 10th and March 1st, and then add a meeting on February 24th.
Okay, does the board have any questions? Hearing none, call for the vote.
Governing Board Member Ms. Maria Guzman, may I please take your verbal vote?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Next is item C, approval for travel request for Dr. Mario Ventura, Superintendent, to travel to Benito Juarez Autonomous University of Oaxaca. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Dr. Ventura?
Madam President, members of the board and Isaac community, I am asking for approval to travel to the University of Benito Juarez Autónoma in Oaxaca. This is the third year that we will be have been recruiting students from their educational language school. These students come highly qualified. They speak up to 3 languages, one obviously being English and the other Spanish. And so far we've hired 13. Our goal is to hire 10. Right now we are in the screening process of these applicants, and our goal would be for myself to go down and interview and hopefully offer some contracts for next year.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions? Hearing none, call for the vote.
Governing Board Clerk, Ms. Maria Guzman, may I please take your verbal vote?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the whole consent agenda? Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, call for the vote.
Governing Board Clerk, Ms. Maria Guzman, may I please take your verbal vote?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Next, we have a call to the public. Ms. Nancy, do we have any call to the public?
Madam President, at this moment, we do not have any public requests to speak.
Thank you. Next, we have our calendar. January 29th, it pays to be safe COVID-19 vaccine event at Isaac Middle School from 8 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. February 9th through the 11th, parent-teacher conferences. Our enrollment is 5,391. And our next regular governing board meeting will be held here virtually at 5 p.m. Thursday, February 24th, 2022. And at this time, we're going to be taking a 5-minute break, and we're going to come back again to our study session for our presentation of our 2019-2023 strategic plan update. Okay, at this time, we're going to be starting our presentation, 2019-2023 Strategic Plan Update, 2021-2022, Quarter Second. Dr. Mario Ventura, Superintendent, discussion and information.
Madam President, tonight you will hear from various departments from our update for the second quarter between October and December before our winter break. And we will begin with goal number 1, exceptional teaching and learning for all students. Dr. Avila.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the Governing Board, and Isaac community. This evening, we are starting with our beginning of year benchmark data. Here is our reading growth towards grade level standards mastery. On the left, you'll see this triangle is from our data, the results from December. The triangle on our right, the beginning of year data, is the assessment results from our students, their students' results from August. And what you'll see here from Tier 3, you'll see we made significant gains from August to December. So in August, 61% of our students were in the at-risk for Tier 3, so that's 2 or more grade levels behind. In December, 48% of our students tested in the at-risk for Tier 3. Tier 1, in August, we had 6% of our students at or above grade level. And in December, in Tier 1, we had 16% of our students now at or above grade level. Here you'll see our math growth overall towards grade level standards mastery. Again, the triangle on the left is our December data, and the triangle from our beginning of year window is our August data. For at-risk Tier 3, our students moved from 63% of our students who were 2 or more grade levels below to 44%. And then in our Tier 1, our students increased from 3% at or above grade level in August to 10% at or above grade level now in December. Now I'm going to hand the presentation over to Dr. Dennis Lawton.
Thank you, Dr. Avila. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. I'm going to present now some data from the individual sites that will show how we're moving towards grade level proficiency for in ELA, or the reading test, and math. And so you can see here for Butler, at the beginning of the year, we had 5% that were on level proficient, and by mid-year, that number had increased to 16. And over on the right-hand side of the graphic, we had we moved the bar on the 2 or more level below, which is the red, so that decreased by 10%. Okay, and then for math, we saw an increase from 2 to 7, and then we decreased again on the red. So we're moving students on both ends. We're increasing the students in the green, which is on level proficiency, and then we're working to decrease the percent of students that are 2 or more levels below. So here's the data for Esperanza. So again, we're moving the students in ELA and math, and Esperanza was the site of the 11 sites. Esperanza was the site that had the biggest movement towards proficiency for math. So this is JB Sutton. And for JB Sutton, we had, again, significant movement. And Sutton was the site that had the biggest decrease in the percent of students who were 2 or more below levels below in English language arts or reading. Okay, here's the data for Joseph Zito. Okay, next one is Mitchell. And Mitchell was the site that had the biggest increase in moving students to grade level proficiency for reading. Here's the data for Moya. and this is PTCO. And PTCO had the biggest decrease in the percent of students who were 2 or more levels below in math. You can see it decreased by almost 30%. They were able to move that many students. Here's Pueblo del Sol. And next we have Isaac Online Prep Academy. And Isaac Online Prep Academy is in our first year of operation. And so we're still developing the systems and structures that will replicate the stronger growth that we're seeing at the established sites. And Isaac Middle School. And you can see for reading in the middle schools, we struggled to move students towards proficiency, even though, as we'll see in a minute, there was a lot of growth in ELA at middle school, but it wasn't enough to move the needle towards proficiency for most of our students. And here's the data for Morris K. Udall. Okay. On this slide, we can see the 2 types of data that iReady provides to us when we do those diagnostic assessments 3 times a year. On the right is the data we've been looking at, which is the movement towards proficiency. On the left, this blue bar, that's showing just growth. So a student might be below level, but they could still grow a lot. They could make up for some of that unfinished learning that they had during the time when they were out of school. And we set a district goal for 120% for reading and math, that each student would make that goal. And you can see here at mid-year, we were at 67%. So we're on track to meet our goal for growth for reading. And again, by mid-year, 27% of our students had completely met that goal, 100%. And 12% of our students had met a stretch goal, which is an accelerated goal to get kids towards grade level more quickly. Okay, here's the data in order for most growth, and here's the top 6 sites. Again, you can see Isaac Middle School is there at the top. Like I mentioned, that they did generate a lot of growth, so 111%. So right now, they're almost at the annual goal already by mid-year. And you'll notice that the 3 top sites for reading growth are the 3 middle schools. So again, the teachers are doing a good job there in terms of growing, filling in some of those gaps that the students might have from the time when they were not in school. Again, here's the data for the other 5 sites. And next, we'll see some math growth data. And again, similar to reading, at mid-year, we were at 66% of our typical growth goal. And again, our goal is 120, so we're on track to hit our goal at mid-year. And you can see 1/3 of our students had fully met the growth goal by mid-year, and then 9% had met that more ambitious stretch growth goal, which is an acceleration goal. So here's the data, the growth data then by site. Again, we had like a 4-way tie almost at the top 4 of the elementary schools: Cole, Moya, Mitchell, and JV Sutton. We're all around 72%. And so again, they're on track to hit that 120% goal. And here's the data for the other 5 sites. Okay, at this point, I'll open it up for questions from the board members.
You guys have any questions? No?
Madam President, this is Harry.
Mr. Guerrero?
Yes. So when we're going through the first set of slides, it was on proficiencies. So when we talk about proficiencies, are we in reality looking at where they are at grade level for their particular grades? In other words, we know that if, let's say it's a 3rd grader, and to be at proficiency, they would be, I don't know, 60% of proficiency. So that would be what? What would that equate to? I guess I'm trying to figure out, when we talk about proficiencies, if we put it on a scale from 1 to 100, and we say that they're at proficiency level 30%, is that 30% of grade level proficiency? Is that what we're saying?
Mr. Garwell, yes, you're seeing proficiency. Ms. Carrizosa, can you go back to the first slide with the pyramids. So this report, we look at two sets of data, Mr. Garwell. One is the proficiency, or our students working at grade level. And so each grade level has standards for mastery. And so what you're seeing here is the green is where students that are working at proficiency or at grade level at mastery. Yellow is 1 year behind, and red is 2 or more years behind. And so what you're seeing here as we're going through the year, our teachers are making enough growth or teaching to mastery where students are moving up in the different tiers. I can't, hold on one second, I have my notes here. So what you're seeing is we moved up about 16% from the yellow to the green, and then I can't read the last one. I think it's, how many are in the red, Ms. Carrizosa? So in the red, we dropped from 61% in the red to 48. So what we want to show here, Mr. Garrell, is that we have students moving in the right direction towards proficiency. And so these students here are in the green, are working at grade level.
Okay. So the ones that are green are at grade level, and so those are the numbers that we're looking at, and I think it was like 30%. I'm looking at my other PowerPoint here, sorry. Yeah, like at Butler, we're at 60%. Is that correct? I'm looking at the slide number 7.
Mr. Garwell, so now that from that pyramid you looked at the whole district, now we're looking at each individual school, and you're seeing at Butler for English language arts, they moved from the beginning year of 5% at grade level up to 16, so 11% growth. And then in math, there were only 2% of the student population was working at grade level, now they're up to 7.
Okay, no, that's good. Thank you, Dr. Ventura. That's a good explanation. I just want to make sure that I was on the same page here and my understanding was correct. So
yes,
thank you.
And that's a good question, Mr. Garwell and Governing Board. Remember, we transitioned from a different instrument. We used to use NWEA, and so they use different metrics. So it's going to take a while for all of us to get used to it. But our teachers have made that transition, and again, we know the board wants to see proficiency, so now we are measuring proficiency or mastery, and then also reporting on the growth.
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, you want to continue?
No, that was my only question.
No, I mean, whoever's next on the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Garwell.
Thank you. Madam President, Governing Board, Isaac Community, good evening. My name is Lili Mesa Lema, and I am the Director of Curriculum and Instruction. As part of Goal 1, we monitor classroom instruction in order to measure the extent to which we are providing high quality, rigorous, and relevant Tier 1 instruction, Tier 1, that first level of instruction. And one of the ways in which we do this is through classroom walkthroughs. During the first semester, we have conducted 303 classroom visits, are conducted by districts and site instructional leaders. And the look-fors that we have in that common look-for document are aligned to our instructional anchors. Tier 1 instruction, again, that first level of instruction to all students, academic language, standards-based curriculum maps and adapted resources, as well as the content area practices and strategies. In the bar graph, you will be able to see a comparison on 3 of the areas within that walkthrough form. The first one being the one on top, the use of the curriculum maps for planning and for instruction, and you can see that we moved up slightly. It was high to begin with in Q1, and we continue to move towards increasing that. The bar in the middle measures the extent to which teachers are using the adopted curriculum, materials, and resources to provide instruction to students. And then the last bar represents the areas in which teachers present the standards and the level of rigor that is required for students to show mastery and learning. And you can see that this is an area in which we aim to continue to grow and increase in, as this is one of the most central areas to impact student achievement. In other words, increasing the number of students that are in those red buckets that Dr. Lawton just talked about. The pie chart on your right, shows the breakdown of the classroom visits by content area.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the Governing Board. I'm Dr. Castillo, here to share the latest with our Tier 2 intervention efforts. All Sites Learning Labs officially kicked off in September, and I'm happy to update you that we've come a long way in a short period of time. Next slide. Thank you. We are finding consistent implementation of small group intervention and progress monitoring. So far, we've conducted 85 lab visits, which has helped us to determine the best way to support teachers and principals with intervention time, professional development, assessments, and instructional practices. I'm excited to share that we have been able to gather formal data to help us learn how we can support the sites and determine which sites need more support. We used these quality indicators that we developed in Q1, and we put them into a Google form so that we can gather the data and make sure we had common language. If you'll recall, this form was created in Q1 with input from all stakeholders, and this form was therefore shared with everyone so that they could use it at their sites to guide best practices for intervention time. As part of the site-based decision-making that came with the Learning Lab, we ensure that each site shares their progress monitoring plan with us so that we can strategically meet with principals and PLCs to discuss data, help them formulate groups, and ensure that students' distinct needs are getting met. Here's an example of one site's dates, progress monitoring dates, and their data. The Extended Learning Coordinator goes over this type of information with the site leaders as the extended learning specialists review and plan the next steps with teachers and coaches during their PLCs. As you are aware, our sites are receiving supplemental support during Learning Lab time from outside tutors. This last quarter, we added one-to-one tutoring in addition to Catapult, Go Schoolbox, and FEV. Our Extended Learning Coordinator communicates with the companies administration and serves as the liaison. As well, she visits the tutoring instruction regularly to ensure that they are providing the highest quality instruction to our students. Now here is an opportunity to see our Learning Lab in action. As we visit sites, we take pictures of best practices and share them on our monthly Extended Learning newsletter. Data walls display diagnostic data, tracking skills from our phonics screeners, and DIBELS ORF. The beginning of the year, our goal was for teachers to create their groups and a rotation schedule, providing an opportunity for all students to receive small group instruction. Here you can see a few different small group schedules displayed for students to refer to. On this slide, you can see what Learning Lab looks like in action at different grade levels. In the center, you'll see 5th grade. On the top left, you'll see 2nd. On the bottom left, you'll see middle school. And on the right is kindergarten. Finally, We have received positive feedback on our newsletter, which serves as a form of communication for reminders, updates, as well as a resource for best practices, videos, links to tools and materials, and even surveys for staff to express needs and concerns. I'm proud of the collective efforts to ensure the success of our interventions thus far. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Castillo. So continuing with our goal number 1, we know professional learning is critical when developing a high-performing staff. For teachers, professional development is scheduled during district instructional half-days through the ISD Digital Professional Development Library, during our new staff orientation in July and return staff week, as well as additional learning opportunities that are provided throughout the year. In this slide, the table represents the number of professional development sessions that have been conducted to date for each of the grade levels and content areas. And professional development continues to be virtual. So you'll see the image there at our last instructional half day and the learning objectives for that group. In the next slide here, we know academic coaches are central to the work of teacher professional learning. ISD academic coaches have engaged with 345 educators so far and have spent over 2,481 hours during the first semester of this year working directly with teachers in the following ways through those coaching services, which include structured planning, lesson modeling, reflective conversations, feedback for learning, and coaching cycles. The table on your right lists the areas of focus for the work between teacher and coach. And you can see BGLAD strategies is at the top of those interactions, given that this is the first year that we're implementing BGLAD strategies throughout the district, followed by objectives and learning targets, classroom management, planning and using of the curriculum maps. Now, because academic coaches support teachers' professional learning, it is very important for us as part of our professional learning plan to provide them with a learning pathway as well. This year, they have engaged in Coaches PLC, Instructional Leaders PLC, coaching rounds and content walkthroughs, as well as they participated and attained the BGLAD Advanced Certification Educator certification. The picture in the middle depicts our recent Instructional Leaders PLC, which includes instructional leaders, include principals, AP TOSAs, the academic coach at the sites, and strategists. And then on the right, you see a picture of Coaches PLC at work, which includes our academic coaches, of course, and our strategists. This is the time for them to learn, collaborate, and to learn together. And in the classroom walkthroughs are also an important part for our collective learning. By visiting classrooms to get together, principals, AP TOSAs, coaches, and strategists have an opportunity to build a common understanding of effective and exceptional teaching and learning for all students.
Thank you, Dr. Mesa. Good evening, Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Ventura, and the Isaac community. My name is Aaron Harris, and I'm the Director of Federal Programs and Grants, and I will be providing updates consistent with Goal 1, Exceptional Teaching and Learning for All Students, our Isaac Learning Club. On Monday, December 13th, our very own Dr. LaMonaco, Moya Elementary School, were interviewed on 3TV's Motivational Monday feature. And this feature spotlights schools and the community on how to stay fit and healthy. And Moya Elementary School student Daniel Mendoza from Mr. Castillo's 5th grade class was interviewed by 3TV reporter Maria Hechanova, who's featured in the picture to the right. Moya is one of 10 Isaac schools that promote STEM, and the STEM model helps connect students and their education to the real world. And so in this video, the instructor from STEM Sports, one of our community partners, is teaching the concept of energy and motion by demonstrating the difference between using leather footballs and foam footballs. And so the student in the video, Daniel, he explains how gloves change the grip that receivers have on the ball. And he also explained the engineering and safety behind helmets and padding to prevent concussions and brain injury. So we're very proud of our Moya Elementary School students who were featured on 3TV. And again, thank you, Dr. LaMonaco, for allowing us into your school and your program. This slide here is our way of showing and highlighting our programs that we offer in the ILC. So Destiny Pacheco, our teaching and learning administrative assistant, and Dr. Castillo, we all work together and partner to create these infographics that we will share with the community and our parents in the school office and community centers so that they can see the program, the many programs, as you can see, that we offer in the AM and PM ILC. The flyers contain the QR code at the bottom where parents can go on and register. Again, shows the programs, the times they meet, and again, how to contact and enroll in the program. So we're very proud of the progress we've made. And as you can see, the advertisements are very appealing, and we hope that they will draw more students and families into our program. So again, thank you for all those who helped with the creation of our flyers. This slide shows our ILC enrollment for the second quarter. And previously, during the first quarter, I shared that 1,393 students were enrolled in the ILC. And for second quarter, 1,972 students are enrolled. And that's a 579 student increase, which equates to about 40%. So between first and second quarter, 40% more enrollment has occurred. We attribute that to, again, the quality of our programs, both academic and enrichment, and again, our flyers and our way of advertising the program. So we hope for third quarter, we have an even greater increase, and we get those numbers up to close to 3,000. This slide here, I just want to go back to Dr. Lawton's slide for school growth and our efforts to support students and schools moving toward grade level, again, by decreasing, as Dr. Lawton said, the levels in red that are 2 grade levels below, and increasing the numbers in green to grade levels in ELA and math. Recently, when Isaac Middle School administration completed their middle of the year benchmark assessments, they noticed a trend that the students enrolled in the honors band class who are part of our ILC were making significant gains. And so the class, achieved more than 100% of their growth goal. And in addition, Ms. Clinic, I want to spotlight, her work in this area. She started seeing the annual stretch goals and how there were several grade levels above their initial assessment from the beginning of the year. So one example I'll share briefly, a 7th grade student moved from beginning at 3rd grade at the beginning of the school year to 6th grade level in math, demonstrating over 300% stretch growth and over 136% annual stretch growth. And there was another student in 8th grade who started at a 3rd grade level, who's now on grade level, demonstrated over a 550% annual typical growth and over 198% stretch growth. So we have band students at Isaac Middle School who were initially enrolled in math intervention at the beginning of the year, based on their diagnostic scores, but now are candidates for algebra when you take a look at their new scores for grade level placement. So very proud of Mr. Rodriguez, the IMS band director, Mr. Sotomayor, principal, and Ms. Clinic, assistant principal, for all of their work, and basically looking at the students enrolled in the program and how well they're performing. So again, thank you, IMS administration. And the last slide here highlights the vendors that we've partnered with for the third quarter. So the vendors listed here are in our schools. And again, I'd like to highlight Deb's Dragon there at the top. This one, I hope you can come out to the schools to see. We will have Deb's Dragon with actual animal demonstrations where students can see animals and pet and touch. So this was very exciting program here for enrichment for our students, so they get to see animals up close. So again, this concludes my presentation. Thank you, Madam President, members of the governing board. This time I'd answer any questions that you may have.
And does the board have any questions? I do. First of all, thank you for the presentation. Well, not kind of a question. Can we have, I'm looking at slide 44, if you could provide a copy to the board of this flyer on slide 44, and
yes,
also the newsletter too, for the extended program as well. And I don't know if there's a way that we could get just how, I know right now we're in the process of getting an executive assistant, these flyers. And the other thing that I just want to mention on slide 32, I am very impressed by the vendor tutor support. I just want to commend you on that. I think it's awesome. Also, everything that we're doing towards helping our students. I know that this is something that the board, before this whole, pandemic hit in 2020, and our kids were at home, and we're seeing progress. And I know something that the board gave direction is to what are we going to do to help our students, improve, and seeing what we're doing before school and after school and all these vendors. I just want to commend you on this. So thank you for doing all these to help our students be successful. That was just a comment.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President, and we will provide the items that you requested through Dr. Ventura. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the governing board. My name is Natasha Martinez, the Director of Student Services, and I will be presenting on the supports and services that we provide to our exceptional learners. Assistive technology consists of devices and services that help our students to access instruction and carry out functional activities within the classroom environment. And in Q2, we were able to provide 328 assistive technology devices and tools directly to our exceptional learners, and another 242 devices and tools to be stored at Isaac's Assistive Technology Library for later use. Our AT library is located at the Alta E. Butler campus, and it's available for use to all Isaac district staff, but it's most frequently utilized by our special education teachers and our related service providers. On the slide, you will see the tools that we offer to support our students with mobility in the school environment, as well as a variety of adaptive seating options, such as a wobble chair, a seat cushion, and a Riften chair. Assistive technology supports our students to gain independence and success in the classroom, and our students utilize assistive tech in our special education and general education classrooms in a variety of ways. Pictured in the center of the slide, you'll see our students utilizing augmentative communication devices and voice output buttons to communicate. On the right, a student is utilizing an adapted keyboard to make a standard Chromebook more accessible for him. And on the left side of the slide, you'll see a student utilizing a visual schedule to help provide consistency and structure to his daily transitions. In Isaac, our special educators and our related service providers consider the types of assistive technology that our exceptional learners require as a part of the development of every individualized education program, otherwise known as IEP.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Ventura. For Objective E, Improved Digital Learning, we're focusing on the Action 2, which is to develop a plan to ensure equitable access to appropriate instructional technology. In this case, to ensure that all students have access to technology-supported learning, we implemented a pilot program at Mitchell Elementary to allow students in the, oh, sorry, we were ahead of slide. Sorry about that. So same action step. In this case, as a continuation of the partnership with ASU, we completed a second wireless internet access location, which is currently sitting on top of Isaac Middle School. And as part of this testing this new hardware, we connected a handful of families in Q2 to the system, and they were able to access high-speed, reliable internet from their house free of charge through the system. Next slide, please. And for the same action step, in this case, we wanted to ensure that all students have access to technology-supported learning. So we implemented a pilot program at Mitchell Elementary that allows students in the K through 2nd grades to access their laptops using a badge, so they don't have to remember and go through the added effort of remembering a password and a login for each system that they're accessing. As we're running through this pilot, and based on feedback that we get from Mitchell, we are going to be expanding this to all of our elementary schools. Thank you.
Transitioning to goal area 2, safe, positive, and healthy school environments. A total of 10 school-wide evaluation tools sets were conducted district-wide to evaluate the current state of positive behavioral interventions and support systems. This evaluation looks at each school's expectations defined and taught, their reward systems, their violation system, and the way that they utilize data to make decisions and manage their school. And each school was provided with an individualized action plan to strengthen the consistency and effectiveness of their PBIS implementation. School counselors and social workers have been hard at work Q2 teaching whole group SEL lessons in all grade levels. They continue to utilize second step curriculum to provide whole group and targeted SEL instruction. We're very fortunate to have a total of 15 school counselors and social workers district-wide. In the Q2, our prevention team was able to teach 845 lessons in grades K5, or I'm sorry, 621 lessons in grades K5, 224 lessons in grades 6-8 for a total of 845 lessons. And in addition to second step, social worker at Mitchell Elementary, Mr. Eric Faustino, created a month-long holiday-themed book club where students were able to participate in book readings that focus on the holidays and SEL skills. And so on this slide, you'll see a picture of Elf Faustino in full costume reading one of the SEL-focused books from the flyer that he created that is pictured on the right side of the slide.
Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board, Dr. Ventura, and the Isaac community. Estela Barraza, Health and Safety, to present on COVID mitigation updates. We focus on Goal 2, which is safe, positive, and healthy school environments. On this first one is Goal B, to follow safety and emergency plans and use best practices. And on the next slide, you're going to see how we have been able to do that on a daily and weekly basis, doing Action 1, reviewing current safety and emergency plans to ensure that there is compliance with the latest standards, something that we learn on a weekly basis from Maricopa County and CDC guidance meetings. And on a daily basis, we update transmission data based on school reporting and on a weekly community and county. Also, something that we continue to do is updating our mitigation plan as new guidelines were released in late December, something that happened in Q2, and providing the continuous support for mitigation guidance and PPE to all of the schools and sites. On the next slide, we continue with the same objective, strategy, and action. This mainly focuses on continuing to do communication to parents, schools, staff, and then also the community. One of the main things, continuing to do their Facebook Lives on social media. The other component is a weekly updates on transmission or any resources or new items that or programs that we're starting, communication to staff on a weekly basis every Thursday, and also a weekly Isaac updates column, which provides either information, education, or any updates that are ongoing with this COVID-19 pandemic. On the next slide, you're going to see how we have been continuing to focus on strategy 2, implement and improve safety and security practices in every school. Action 1 was mainly to perform individual analysis of school sites and identify areas that present safety concern. One of the main components is our mitigation, and it's, again, changing the process in which we are doing contact tracing in our schools. To become more effective in the changing times with the new variant and the high transmission or the high reported cases. Something that we started this at the end of Q2. On the next slide, it's our Pays to Be Safe incentives, and this is focusing on action 3 from strategy 2. And you can see here as we click to the next one is our the total of gift cards that have been given today, 691. The next slide, you're going to see the total of events, continuing with the same action, strategy, and objective. A total of 14 vaccine events in Q2, including 1,000 turkey giveaways on Thanksgiving event, and that happened on just right before Thanksgiving, and one of our vaccination events. And this is in partnership with the Equality Health Foundation. Continuing our partnership with them and their various partners is the vaccination events. And we, at our events, there was in Q2 just over 1,400 vaccines that were administered, and about close to 500 of them were administered to pediatric, which is under 17 years old. And you can also see demographics based on the people that are receiving the vaccines. And again, these are open to community, our families, our staff. So we've seen a little bit of all, even people outside the community that come to our events to get their vaccine for that. On the next slide, you're going to see, and I'm done with this one. Thank you.
So good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Ventura, and community members. As we continue with Goal 2, safe, positive, and healthy school environments, we are continuing to support our mitigation plans by updating all safety and emergency plans and distributing accordingly. Action 3, as you can see, is develop and plan to mitigate risk for students and staff during the COVID-19 pandemic. This evening, I'd like to report, this is our update that reflects our It Pays to Be Safe incentivized plan in the Isaac School District. Madam President, members of the board, as you know, you not only supported and approved, but you've really been pushing the effort of incentivized plan in the Isaac District. This evening, I'd like to report that 9 of our 14 sites and or schools, and we divide them by schools and sites and departments, have met the 80% threshold of being vaccinated. So we find that as a success, and we're continuing to move that effort. Our school leaders, if I may highlight Isaac Middle and operations, they're only 1 to 2 employees away from meeting the 80% threshold. So our hope is that very soon we'll report that 11, and then more than the 11, we'll get to our 14. If I could just add a quick note, 80% overall, 80.03, as you can see, have been vaccinated in the Isaac School District. I think that sends a strong message. We're continuing to work on the remaining 140. Last but not least, I do want to also report that this Tuesday is payday, and that will be our first payout. Again, as a board, we thank you because you supported and approved the payout. So it'll be every particular employee who has been vaccinated and meets and fits within the 80% site and or school will receive their pay, $250 on Tuesday. We're excited to share that with employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arenas. Transitioning to Goal Area 3, in partnership with Valle del Sol and Molina Healthcare, we hosted Operation Warm, an event that provided hundreds of JB Sutton students with new winter jackets. Operation Warm's tagline is more than a coat, which means that the coats don't just provide physical warmth, but they also provide the confidence to socialize, succeed, and provide hope for a brighter future. Mr. Jeremy Gibson, Prevention Coordinator, Ms. Renee Small, JB Sutton School Counselor, and Ms. Adrienne Adam, JB Sutton Social Worker, worked very hard to ensure Operation Warm was a huge success for our students and families.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Ventura, Isaac Community. My name is Susana Lopez. I'll be presenting on Goal 3, Objective E, Grow Heart of Isaac Community Center Programming. Heart of Isaac had a total of 361 visitors during Q2, which does not reflect all the calls and visitors that we received during this time frame. HOI Closet and the HOI Giving Closet, 37 family activities and 193 family referrals were completed during Q2. HOI continues to connect families to our trusted community partners. The higher requested need for Q2 was HOI Giving Closet, COVID relief, baby pantry, utility assistance, and medical services. In this slide, you'll see examples of some of the classes offered to families. Families receive various opportunities to enhance their skills and build new ones through the core topics such as family stability, parenting and health, and safety, through a combination of in-person, virtual, hands-on, and parent-child classes. The HOI team continues to assess the need and current events to determine the topics offered to the community. HOI continues to honor and celebrate the community's holidays and cultura. During Q2, we had the privilege to put up our first Dia de los Muertos altar. Community members, Isaac School District staff were invited to display pictures of their deceased loved ones. The annual tamal making class was offered to the community in December. 25 participants won a basket full with ingredients to make their tamales at home. I would like to thank El Camino Carniceria for their generous donation of 60 pounds of meat for the tamal baskets. In addition, HOI restarted the HOI Monthly Resource Day. Please note all safety precautions were taken to ensure the safety for all attendees. An average of 20 community partners participated during the Resource Day. Flu shots, library cards, health checks, food bags, dental screenings, free books, and popcorn were provided to participants. Dia de los Muertos altar was created by the community members. It was important to them to create a traditional altar and create an educational experience through it. Labels were posted through it to help explain the symbolism of the items put on the altar. And these pictures provide you an example and what our first altar looked like. And this next slide I think we're on slide 68. Yep. So these pictures continue to highlight the connection and trust HOI has established throughout the Isaac community. Using the community-driven approach, the first picture is from our pumpkin carving class. A parent shared with us, "This was my first time carving a pumpkin. My kids would always ask to carve one, but I didn't know why and how. Now I do, and I can create new memories with them." The second picture was taken at the HOI Monthly Resource Day. And finally, the final picture were the mothers who participated in the community baby shower hosted in December. The Isaac School District Parent Education Program continues to be busy. A total of 167 families referrals have been completed. School uniforms, utility assistance, and COVID referrals were the top 3 requests from our families. In addition, they have been busy recruiting and registering families into our new after-school parent education program. The after-school parent education program, funded under the 21st Century Program, brings a unique education program to our families. Through contractors, families are able to enroll into Spanish and English GED classes, English classes, Zumba, online English virtual classes, and Plazas Comunitarias, an adult literacy program. 81 families have enrolled into the program to date. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Ventura, and the Isaac community. My name is Sylvia Carizosa, and I'm here to give you an update on our communications department. We'll start with Objective A, Strategy I, and Action 1. Here, I just want to give you a brief update in regards to what we have been doing to increase the variety of communication between home, community, and school. The list that you see here before you are the different social media platforms and communication platforms in general that we use in order to communicate to our community. We know that nowadays it is likely that we're all attached to our phones, and we know that our parents definitely use their phones to connect with teachers, the school, and up to date with specific events that are happening at the site. We are happy to announce and just remind you that our website is mobile friendly, so it allows parents to view the website on their phone, and it's user friendly. The next slide here that I'd like to update you on is, as we know, COVID is ever changing and provides opportunities for us to change our practices and procedures. So this is just a snapshot of some of the communication that went out when we returned from winter break, knowing that we, again, continued to be in high transmission. We wanted to remind our parents that we were returning, and then also what they could do to continue their layers of mitigation as they return their children to us here at the sites. We update this weekly, daily, sometimes if needed, but we want to make sure that our parents know that this is an avenue that they can go to for updated communication. Another area or objective that I'd like to highlight is our communication strategy for greater community and family awareness. We do this with our partnership with our consultant, Mari Rabago, who has a definitely high followers, and we highlight the great things that are happening here at Isaac. Here before you, you'll see the Isaac Learning Club with Mr. Aaron Harris. Again, the COVID vaccine ongoing. What we did there is highlighted and brought one of our doctors, who's our partner as well, to share with parents and really answer any questions, concerns that the parents may have had as the vaccines were rolled out for 5 years and older. And then here you'll see our very own Susana Lopez also sharing information about the Heart of Isaac. So what we like to do is highlight the different events and programs that we have here. And of course, we appreciate that Mari Rabago shared this on her platform, which then allows us to continue to have more followers. And in addition to that, it is also a way to recruit and retain others to the Isaac School District. Here we also have videos, again, that continue layers of communication for our community and really just make sure that they're posted in all our communication platforms. We have our Dr. Rocha, and then of course our very own Dr. Ventura, who also supported in communicating updates to our families. The other update I'd like to provide to you tonight is Objective C, Action 1, in regards to developing strategies for greater community and family awareness. We know that part of our job is to continue to inform parents on a daily basis, and so we like to do that with our specific events, vaccine events, district-wide events, and of course, any opportunity for us to get feedback from our stakeholders. I'd like to just appreciate the support that Angel provides for us, as well as Communication Ambassador Michelle, who supports with the social media information and updates. As you see here, we know that things have changed and we have to be virtual. We were proud that we were able to host the virtual Isaac Spelling Bee, and our parents were able to log in and be a part of that. And then, of course, here are just some reminders and posts that have gone out. Parents like the reminders of half-days. They like the reminders of upcoming celebrations. And of course, we always like to highlight our students and our staff and our families here at Isaac. Of course, we know that at Isaac we are very data-driven. So are we in this department, and we like to look at data. The great thing about the social media platforms is that it does provide that real-time data and allows the opportunity for us to continue or perhaps refine our practice of posting and specific content. So here, as you see before you, we've highlighted and just really want to highlight the number of social media reach that some of our posts have received. And we're very proud and want to continue this practice. And finally, I would just like to report that we have also continued with our Isaac Pride. We know that this is an opportunity for us to continue to inform our community members. This particular Isaac Pride was about our annual financial report. It provided an opportunity for the question and answers in regard to the override. Of course, we can't ask for votes, but we definitely provide an opportunity to provide that information to all stakeholders. At this time, I can entertain any questions, and it's also time for a little break.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions? No? Okay, so I guess we don't have any questions. We're gonna take a 5-minute, you know what, I do have a question before. I'm sorry. I'm looking at my notes. Mr. Arenas, page 61. So what's happening with Isaac Middle School, Operations Sutton and Butler, and preschool? What are we doing to?
Yeah, Madam President and members of the board, Dr. Ventura, we're doing everything we can. We've had some we've had some strong efforts there in terms of moving the envelope. Our leaders, we've been in constant contact with them, and we've been moving the envelope. I think that it's a reflection of what's happening nationally, in terms of the nation, and some people still have had some underlying issues, and I think they've had some concerns with some of the vaccination efforts. What I am proud to report is we haven't heard of any negative issues, any strong resistance, any people communicating, articulating, this is the wrong thing to do. We really haven't heard that, Madam President, members of the board. So I think what's happened is we have a cohort of employees that are still a little concerned with their well-being overall. But we're pushing the envelope. I think we're making every effort we can. Like I said, Madam President, members of the board, we're, in those 2 schools, we're 1 or 2 employees away, and once again, those leaders are working hard to move that envelope.
And until when are we going to continue pushing this?
So Dr. Ventura has, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Ventura has really been very persistent about continuing to work with cabinet members. So when we visit schools, when we talk to leaders, that we continue. Every time we have a meeting, every time Dr. Ventura hosts a meeting, a principals meeting, a leaders meeting, we push that envelope and remind everyone the importance and how it falls into our safe schools, a safe environment. So we continue to push the message positively, of course, and we continue to work with our association members and our leaders within our campuses.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Before we go to break, just quick comments real quick. Ms. Natasha Martinez, is she on there? Yeah.
Yes, Madam President.
I just want to say, thank you under your leadership for the Special Needs Department. You've been doing an awesome job. And I was very impressed with slide 62 on Operation Warm. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. That's great. And also what you're also doing, I was looking at the slides with 49 and how I commend also the special ed teachers. I know that it's a little bit of more patience and with our students. And thank you for all these wonderful slides and seeing our kids. This is something that I miss, not going to the schools, but by you providing all the slides and what we're doing, I think it's great. So thank you very much for your leadership and doing a great job in the special ed department.
Thank you.
And then Susana Lopez?
Yes, Madam President.
Um, Another thing that I just want to commend you on that as well, and something that I'm very proud of, something when we went to the AC ALAS conference, and I'm very proud of, I mentioned in my last board meeting, very proud of the teaching and learning team, and very proud of what you're doing and sitting in the audience and seeing them present. All of you are very knowledgeable, and I could really see how much you care for our students. So I really appreciate that in your hard work. My question to you is on the promotores. Do we still have promotores in all of our school sites right now? And are they still same promotores, or do we have additional new ones?
So there's currently a total of 6 active Isaac promotores, and they're not located in all the sites. The promotores have a recruitment plan to promote. They have been working on recruiting additional parents, but unfortunately with the COVID pandemic, it did slow down their efforts to strengthen their team and go through the entire process of training. But it is on their to-do list to promote more parents.
Okay. Well, thank you. And then the last one, real quick, Ms. Carizosa. I thank you because, I'm a follower. I'm always on my phone and following social media. So I do see, and this is also good for us because, when we go to, it has helped me when we go to our conferences or meet with other colleagues and they ask, like one that they asked, when is your next COVID event? So I'm able to go into our website and look at the event. So this is very good information. So thank you very much for keeping it updated and all this marketing that we want and what we're doing, to attract more students and keep their families aware. Other than that, I just want to kind of made a comment before I forget when we go. So, okay, so anybody else want to make a comment or take a break? Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Mr.
Yeah,
Garwell?
Madam President.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Garwell.
Yeah. So it's the second time that you mentioned the presentation at Azialis. Would it be possible for the board to get a copy or the deck that was used for that conference?
Yeah, definitely. Okay,
I would like to see it.
Would you like?
Because it sounded like it was really good.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
Go. Or do you?
No, I was just saying that I would like to see the presentations that were made, so that we have a point of reference. I think that would be great.
Yeah, or what we could do, we could probably put it on the next agenda and have all of them here because they did an awesome, outstanding job. So I think that it's great at what we're doing here at our Isaac District. So yeah, we could definitely discuss that, Mr. Guerra.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we are going to take a 5-minute break. got in us. Go 4. Go Cardinals.
Yes. So good evening once again, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Ventura, and community members. So Goal 4, a premier workforce that reflects and sustains the values of our community. That is our pillar, right, in HR and human resources. That's what we're there for. So we take a lot of pride in creating a workforce culture of high performance. That's very, very important to us. Paraprofessional teacher program. We're building this and this program is continuing to evolve. We currently have 5 classified employees completing their teaching program from a local university. Staff do continue to work at their respective sites and while they're completing their practicum hours. They also have an opportunity, many of these members, to provide classroom coverage at their home campus, and that certainly supports and sustains building a pipeline within our Isaac community. It straightens the pipeline of bridging our own staff members with the opportunity to continue to serve in our community. And you could see obviously the universities that we work with and partner with. A really neat, honorable side note is that I was really excited to reconnect with one of our former employees here in Isaac, Ms. Kathy Valdivia. Ms. Valdivia and I worked together at PT COA, and I know she's an alumni, and I talked to her last week. So she's working in the EDU department at Phoenix College, and right away we started talking and we reconnected. So we're going to develop that pipeline and hopeful that we're going to get many candidates and students from Phoenix College to the Isaac School District. As we continue, we also want to create a workforce culture that promotes equity and community values. That, of course, is a reflection of our community, what takes place in our classroom, on our campuses, within our departments is very, very important. We know we are here for teaching and learning. We know that we're here to teach our students, and our students are here to learn. However, there's all these other programs that support, what makes our Isaac community special. And we will look at the retention rate of teachers when we do when we continue with Goal 4. Classroom coverage. The classroom coverage rate, just as a friendly thank you, a reminder to Madam President, members of the board, that in the fall, again, under the direction of Dr. Ventura, we led the effort of really being competitive with our sister districts. As you know, we had to increase our pay rates, if you will, our compensation rates for employees, non-administrative employees. These are our classified employees that work at our respective schools. So aside from their hourly rate, we're, again, developing that pipeline. We are paying them $65. That's an increase above their hourly rate. We find that that's not only a retention piece, it is a morale builder. It helps that employee obviously earn a little extra money, and it supports a safe haven for our students because they know our students. Also, retirees, we increased that. You increased that, Madam President, members of the board, to $175. Long-term guest teachers, $165 daily. And then the daily guest teacher is $150 daily. And we've heard reports that school district A or school district B, sister district A or B, may have even higher rates than us. But I like to say that we are pretty comparable. And in working with ASPA, our state HR, education HR association, we're pretty comparable and competitive. Excuse me. Our classroom comprehensive plan implemented fall of 2021. Once again, Madam President, members of the board, try not to repeat myself, but thank you. You supported a classroom coverage plan. We've been implementing that. Certainly, we know it goes without saying that the C word, COVID, has really impacted all of our lives and our employee groups at every ecosystem. And the challenging part we have here in the education system is that we're dealing with little bodies every day. Our little bodies come to us so they could learn, and we come to them so we could teach. The problem is that when we're trying to fill classrooms, classroom coverage, we're doing everything we can to support that. We do them with certificated non-classroom staff, better known or also known, if you will, as OCs, other certified, our interventionists, our academic coaches. I don't want to say non-classroom teachers because every certified employee is a teacher, right? All our classified employees are teachers in many ways. So with that said, we do work within our schools to support classroom coverage. We do reassign site-based guest teachers as well. So if we have a site that has a designated site teacher, guest teacher. I like to refer to them as guest teachers. I know Dr. Ventura has allowed us to use that word more versus substitute, because substitute's certainly an honorable word, but I just love guest teacher because they're our guests. Special area teachers are assigned also to provide coverage. Those are our PE teachers, our library assistants, our music teachers, and certainly our art teachers. They also support coverage at our respective campuses. We split classes, so many times when we fill a classroom or cover a classroom, we do it horizontally within the grade level. But there are times, depending on the school and what's happening that day, where we may go one grade level up or one grade level down in terms of splitting the students, because our teachers know their students. Prep period coverage, once again, we do pay $35 a prep period. As we know, Madam President, members of the board, our middle schools, their schedules reflect and are aligned to a different schedule than K-5. A lot of them are departmentalized. They go by periods, as you know, and many times we just may need one period, one section covered. So we've allowed that latitude, and we paid individuals who do that $35 an hour. Last but certainly not least is our emergency guest teacher classified employees. We outlined 2 per campus, but quite frankly, Dr. Ventura has allowed us to expand that. So there's some campuses that have 3 or 4 classified employees that are working on their extra schooling, and in some cases they're very happy in doing this sporadically and supporting our classroom coverage. Once again, these are the employees that, aside from their hourly rate of pay, they do receive $65 more a day. We find that as an incentive. It helps us retain individuals that we want to retain, and that would be all of our premier workforce, right? Guest teacher incentives, again, last fall, we instituted, implemented a plan of 35 days per term. So as we know, it's primarily about 9 weeks per term. For the most part, 7 of those 9 weeks, obviously 35 days. If you were served as a guest teacher at Isaac School District second term, that of course is right before the winter break, we would pay you a $500 stipend. We're happy to report we had 10 guest teachers who met that threshold, and they were excited to receive a little extra compensation. We also partner with ESI, and as you know, the Educational Support Institute Incorporated, they work with us in providing us guest teachers to support our classrooms. So they also did their own, if you will, incentive pilot program. If you recall, last fall, I presented to the governing board, and we were a pilot program. They really liked Ms. Valenzuela, Tanya Valenzuela. They liked working with our HR department. Said, hey, we've got an idea. So what they did is that if you were an ESI employee and you covered a classroom that particular day, you would receive a raffle ticket. So obviously, the more raffle tickets you receive that second term, the more chances to win a prize. And the prizes were the grand prize was an iPad, and then we had 2 respective gift cards of $300 for AJ's, I believe it was, and/or Bashes. I think it's formerly Bashes, but nonetheless, that was an incentive. It worked. We're hoping to replicate that.
Madam President, Governing Board, and Community, I am back to present on Goal 4, which is premier workforce that reflects and sustains the values of our community. And our main focus is on Objective A, Strategy 6, and Activity 1, which is to promote in registration and engagement of WellStyles, the current incentive program for our staff in regards to health and well-being. And I'm very happy to mention that we have exceeded our original goal of 35% registration and engagement to reach 47.3% at the end of December. Continued growth, so we're seeing that staff continue to sign up, and we continue to do that in promoting. In our next slide, you will see the engagement report from October to December, and although it did have a slight decrease from what originally of 71 at the end of October to about 67% at the end of December. We continue to again do different incentives and activities to increase engagement. This is the engagement that happens when a staff member logs into their WellStyles digital platform to record habits, to learn about any of the benefits of living a healthier lifestyle, and to earn their points that will eventually provide the $200 incentive. We have had individuals who have claimed their $200 already. So this is an ongoing, and they have it till the end of the year. On the next slide, it's one of the main things that we're doing, continuing with the same objective and activity, to have a weekly ISACS update column, ongoing either education or to provide in this on a weekly basis in regards to well-being. We also highlight a staff member of each month. Each school highlights one staff member. And this one, we highlight the ones that are being highlighted at their school on the ISAC updates. So we create a story as a WellStyle success story, a small video that highlights what they have done so far, what do they like about the platform, and what kind of success they have had so far by utilizing the platform. You can see a couple of our members here. And then the other part that is ongoing is by the amazing support of our well-being champions at each of the school sites or department, that they provide ongoing support with the platform, any questions that staff may have with registration, with highlighting them, and also increasing engagement. And one of the main components and responsibilities of the champions this year was to redesign the staff lounge. And you can see on this next slide that Moya was the first one to complete this in Q2. And you can see a couple of the pictures of how they decided to redesign their lounge to be a place of relax and recharge. One of the Ms. Ortiz mentions that the perks of teaching at Moya: coffee, massage, and ping pong. So that was pretty cool. And Ms. Avericho said it's a great place to sit and relax. The way it's set up, it's very inviting, and you can really enjoy yourself. We do have the rest of the schools that are working to finalize their staff lounge as well. So I'll be happy to report that on our next update. For now, that was all on my end. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Ventura, and Isaac Community. We finally made it to goal number 5, which is operational excellence across every school and every department. Tonight, we're going to talk about Objective A, which is to establish an inclusive and timely budget development process. And Strategy 1 talks about maintaining financial stability and transparency. Two of the actions that are within this strategy is to monitor and adjust our annual expenditure budget as needed, and to review our monthly reports that we receive from the Arizona Department of Education, or ADE. And we receive reports on both the budget and on ADM, or enrollment numbers. And as required by law, the annual expenditure budget was revised and adopted in December. To calculate the revised budget, the Budget 25 report and the ADM summary report provided monthly by ADE are used. So if we look at a timeline of what we do during the year in order to have a budget to operate under. So in June, we adopt the original expenditure budget using ADM projections. As a reminder, the state about 3 years ago changed from a prior year funding model to a current year funding model. In other words, we're funded every month on the students that are here, on our enrollment and our what we call average daily membership. And so our budget tends to change a lot more than it used to in the past. So we do ADM projections. How many students do we think we're going to have next year? And then once school starts and we get to the end of October, Arizona Department of Education looks at our budget, looks at our ADM, and says, yes, you have to revise. No, you don't. Generally, everybody has to revise now because of the current year funding. So in December, we adopt a revised budget. to match the new ADM numbers or the actual ADM numbers that we have. And we received notification from ADE, and all of you as board members received a notification from them that we had to revise, and so we did in December. And then as we go along through the year, then we get down to May, which is the end of school, right? And so we do another final revised budget. And obviously, in between all of these steps, we monthly monitor these reports we get from ADE. And then once the year is over and we go through June, by the time we get to October and we've paid all of our bills and everything for the last year, then we do the annual financial report. And this is a report I also do to you every year. Right? And so by then, ADE has done our final recalculation of our ADM and budget limit, and that's what allows us to calculate our carry forward amount. This process used to be fairly smooth because of it. We're getting funding from the kids we had last year. Now that it has become current year funding, it is a very rocky road to get from June to October. So the first report that we look at is the ADM summary report. It's published every month. And the district, or basically our attendance clerks, right? The data automatically goes to ADE every single day on our enrollment, on our withdrawals, and on our absences. So this is a direct line straight to ADE for them to have the information. And then once a month, they use whatever that day is. They use that day's number, and that's what they use to say, this is what your budget should be, this is how much money we're going to pay you. And it's one day a month that they use that number, and they tell us in advance what day that is, so we make sure that all of our data is there and correct. And that happens in technology with our data specialists. And then they say, based on that number, they do what's called a Budge 25 report. And basically what they do is they say, using those numbers, that ADM, that enrollment number, we're going to figure out what your budget should be. And we're going to compare it to what your most recent adopted budget is. And then they're going to tell us, does it match, does it not match, right? These reports, we look at them every month, we monitor them every month. If something looks weird with our ADM numbers, we talk to the technology data people about it, but they drive our budget and revisions. We compare our expenditures. Do we need to find other places to put things? Do we have extra money maybe in a line or something that we can move around? So what do these reports look like? This is what the ADM summary looks like. And if you can see on the far left-hand side, it has all of our grade levels. It'll say, how many students do we have that are not online? The next column says, how many students do we have that are online students, right? And then it gives us out the edge, it gives us the total. And so you'll notice in November, we had an ADM down at the bottom of 4,591.74 students. And this was after we received notice from ADE that we had to revise our budget. So the ADM summary comes out for November, and then in December, they use those numbers to calculate what the budget should be. And as you notice, in December, they said we were $911,000 over budget. Because when we did our first budget, we said we were going to have so many students, and really we only came in with 4,500, so we need to reduce our budget by $1 million. So in December, I stood up here, I presented a budget to you, reducing by $1 million. In December, we're still going to school, we're still sending the data up there with how many kids we have enrolled, and they do a December ADM report or an enrollment report. And look what happens. We went from 4,500 students to 4,719 students. We went up by 128 ADM. And those were primarily online students. Online attendance is a lot different than the regular attendance. It took a process to get it all in there, and now that we did, we gained 128 students. The problem with that is now they're going to look at December's ADM, and look what happens. They send us a January budget report, and now we're $1.1 million under budget. So the budget that we adopted in December, and I stood here and presented to you, is already $1.1 million under budget. We have that much more money than we thought we were going to have, just because of current year funding and the change in the students. Now we get January's ADM report, and look what happens again. We go up by another 101 students. Now our budget, we don't have February's yet, it'll be out in a couple of weeks, but now we're going to be at probably $1.7 million under budget. So we're going to have to increase our budget by that much when we get into May. Current year funding has made budgeting extremely difficult and extremely rocky road. One of the things that is very unsettling to somebody who does numbers, and numbers always are supposed to balance, is that the Budget 25 report that ADE gives us should be our checks and balances. Is our budget correct for what the Department of Education says it should be? And it never matches because we're always behind with the numbers changing monthly. It is a moving target, and we just have to do the best we can as we go along. So now we're going to be, when we get to February's report, we're going to be about $1.6, $1.7 million under budget. But we'll make all that up when we get to May. So we have in our system that we work with, we have a working budget, a column, and we have an adopted budget column. And the working budget column is very fluid. It changes monthly as the numbers change. So as I said before, the ADM summary report is published every month through June, right? After we get through with May, our attendance, and then we get one through June. But then ADE comes back, and in September, they do a final reconciliation of all of our enrollment, all of our attendance, all of our students, and so they put that out in September. September is 4 months after the year's over, 3 months after the year's over, right? So what do we do then? They give us a final Budget 25 in May, in June, based on our May ADM numbers, right? And they go back and compare it and say, are we right? But what I didn't put on here is when they do our final revision in September, they do give us one more report, and that's called the Budget 75. And that says, this is what we decided your final budget should be. This is what you spent, so this is how much money you're going to carry forward. And this comes out in October after we do our annual financial report. That last final piece is what closes the book on a year, but we don't close the book on a year until end of October to get our final, this is what your budget is, this is what you spent, this is how much you're going to be able to carry forward.
Good evening again, Madam President, members of the Governing Board, and Dr. Ventura. For Objective D, to use effective and efficient business and resource management systems, the specific action here, review all currently used software systems for capabilities and current utilization to establish areas of improvement. So as part of the vaccine incentive plan, we developed a structure within Synergy, our student information system, to track the data that's associated with those events. So we train staff, develop a system within Synergy so that they can input all the vaccine documentation that we receive from families, and also record all the incentive cards, the hundreds of and more incentive cards that we are giving to families. That data is all being tracked directly within Synergy, so we're now more effectively using that system and the data within it.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Ventura, continue with goal number 5, Objective C, maintaining a clean, safe learning facilities and grounds, buses, and equipment for operational excellence. Some major completed projects. These are some HVAC projects just to for Isaac Middle School, Esperanza, Morris K. Udall, a 7.5-ton heat pump and a 5-ton heat pump, and then some chiller work for a large circulation pump that was installed. Again, the thing to note here is this was done with in-house. Typically, just to replace a 7.5-ton heat pump would probably run somewhere in about $25,000 range. Which this only costs us about $20,800 versus for all 3 units. A compressor over at Cord T. Smith, again, only $995 done in-house. That could range somewhere around $2,000 to $3,000 range, depending on location and size of it. We had some flooring repairs to do at the Boys and Girls Club as well, and then Joseph Zito had some carpet replacement. Moving on, here's that 7.5 ton heat pump that was placed at Isaac, just to take a look at the sheer size of it. Again, it does require a large crane. Again, we typically have 2 people assigned to replacing the unit and new ductwork. Just a little, you can see the difference between the 7.5 ton and the 5 ton unit. Again, these are a little bit easier. Our HVAC technician could usually handle this one by himself, but we typically try to have 2 people up there just for safety reasons. Here's a picture of the carpet replacement over at Zito, one of the main hallways there. You got new carpet. Some other major replacement carpet, roofing at Leela Austin. Again, this is one of the schools that was leased to a church. This is something I can't take to the SFB, but just to recode it, it was over $100,000. This basically, we're just extending the life of the roof another maybe 10 years, 5 to 10 years, easy, no problem at all. We needed some electrical upgrades to install the new Novaris air purifiers. There was about 110 outlets that we needed to install, not only running new conduit and electrical, but we had to go back to the main panels to draw some extra circuits to supply that. Here's the Leela Austin roof. As you can see, the recoat of the roof, and it actually looks really nice. They've done a really great job. Here's a picture of the Novaris and the outlets. We're going to go back and clean these up, so try to see what we can do with the cord to dress that up, and then see how we can fur out and cover up some of those conduit and make it look a little bit more built in. These older schools, it was really hard to, you can't go down the walls on some of those because there were block walls. So we have to either come through the outside and then down on the inside to accommodate the electrical outlets. These are the completed SRP LED retrofits that we did in-house. Again, this was done by Carlos and his team, Mr. Nunez. And you'll see that we got the reimbursement back from SRP for each Mitchell, Moya, and Joseph Zito. Again, one thing to note between here is basically the rebate covered half the cost. The remainder of the cost of $7,000, let's say $52.75 for Mitchell, and each of these respectively, they'll get paid off, and within 6 to 7 months, the projects will be paid for themselves. After that, all the savings will be just go back to the bottom line. Here's some pictures of the lighting, a retrofit, just different types of fixtures. Again, new LEDs in there. This is one of the cafeterias. These are some completed projects, grading and drainage. Butler had a big issue with, especially on hard rain nights and days that we would have lots of water would build up at the front entrance to the administration. Because of the slope of the parking lot and area, the water couldn't run out into the street or into a retention area, so we had to build a dry well there and catch basin right at the front of the office there. You'll see a storm drain there. Again, that was funded by the SFD as well. And then we have some exterior weatherization updates at Mitchell. These are just preliminary asbestos testing. Again, that is also funded BRG by the SFD. These are some design phase roofs. These are in the design phase. And we've got partial payments from the SFB for that. You'll see the dollar amounts listed on there are the partial payments for Alta Butler and J.D. Sutton. As part of that too, there are some other partial payments for Joseph Zito and Pueblo del Sol. And again, all these have been reimbursed. And of course, going back into our Fund 691. Here you see the work orders. Again, we typically give you a total number of work orders. The 3,208, I think, was probably about 400 work orders higher than the previous one I gave you. So that's how many more work orders came in. Again, that's again the total square footage of the facility district, $897,660. Again, we're still remaining in the top 20 as far as response time to completing the work orders. This year we've had 3,208 that we print out. As you can see, we're trending back up. Last year was a lot slower year because of COVID, stuff like that. But this year we've really picked up having staff back. So we're probably going to go over the 2017 as far as number of work orders submitted. Again, this just shows you a value of where we're at. We're about 80%. We're in the top 20 as far as completing our work orders within 7 days or less. Thank you. If you have any questions.
As a completion of goal number 5, again, still talking about our operational excellence across every school and every department. We're going to go to objective D, which is our use of effective and efficient business and resource management systems. Strategy 1 in there says to establish standard operating procedures and systems to ensure efficiency, quality, and uniformity. And then strategy 4 says to train staff on current resource management programs and track their use. Action 1 says that we should refine our current operating and purchasing procedures and systems to enhance efficiency, quality, uniformity, and accountability. And Action 2 says to establish standard operating procedures and systems to ensure efficiency, quality, and uniformity. So during the second quarter of this year, we implemented what's called the EPAR system. And EPAR stands for an Electronic Personnel Action Request. And the EPAR system is embedded within our Vision software, which is our operational software, and it assists with our personnel management, right? So implementing this process will ensure the efficiency and accountability. Right now, we currently use, and it's, everybody knows it, when you're going to buy something, you enter a requisition and you get a purchase order. So now we're embedding into our thinking that every time we want to do something with a person or a position, that we enter an EPAR. It should be, we need to train our brains that says, I think people, I think EPAR, I think buying, I think requisition. And that's where we're going, and it's going to make our systems more uniform. It allows us to have better control over position control and how many positions for our staffing, for our budget, and to make sure that we don't miss anything. Because in the past, it has been through an email, through a phone call, through this person, through that person, through whoever. And this way, this follows a system. If I need a new person, if I need to increase hours, if I want to give somebody a raise, whatever it is, I do it through NEPAR. And the request begins with the supervisor. What do I want to do with the position in my department, in my school, right? And then it's routed for approval. So it goes from the supervisor, goes to HR, right? HR says, why do you need this other person? Why do you need to increase their hours? Okay, this person's terminated. Let's send it through. And then it comes through my department. Do we have the budget maybe to give them another person? Do we not? Right? What's going on there? And then it goes to payroll. So that if the person's leaving, we shut them off. If we're adding a person, we turn it back on. EPARs are out there to manage pretty much everything. There's a lot of them listed here, right? We add a new hire. So we can put the new hire, put the person in, we get the person entered, we get them through the system, and we get them into payroll so they don't miss a payroll, and we got them all set up right, right? Add a staff termination. Somebody's going to leave. Well, what happens? Well, it goes through the system. You put in an EPAR, this person's leaving in 2 weeks. By the time it gets through the system and gets back to HR, because it starts at HR and it ends at HR, what's going to happen? HR is going to get it. We're going to terminate that person, and then we're going to post that position. So we're ready to start looking. School needs another second grade teacher. This is why they need it, right? And so there's all different reasons for it. So when people get paid supplemental, work extra hours, those kinds of things. We have an EPAR for that. My partner is Next.
Thank you, Ms. Lang. And once again, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Ventura, and community members, I think we're getting real close to completing our strategic update here. December 9th, just want to highlight that December 9th, 2021, right before we left for winter break, we did engage in a technical steps and specific process training for our office staff personnel, which included most of our administrative assistants. 31 employees were in service. I think that's a highlight. I know that's something that Dr. Ventura really has been pushed in terms of creating systems and structures. Systems and structures what drives our process. On January 5th, when we returned from winter break, we our overview process was the process training for administrators on our campuses and departments. And I think you can see why we had two separate trainings, different trainings in nature. However, the framework was to align the same information for all. And the same information meant that as we move forward, everyone was receiving the information that they needed. All the participants received written procedures, and the procedures are posted on the Isaac Insider, and the presentation was recorded. SMART goals. We too think like, I think like T&L, teaching and learning, so I thought we'd be creative and insert the SMART goals that we have: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, and how that relates to our systems. Specifically, no pun intended, specific, the actions aligned to personnel steps and following, as Ms. Lang mentioned, new hires, resignations, extra pay, guest teacher pay. This is just a snapshot of many electronic moves that need to take place. And correct compensation, accountability, and documentation. How do we measure this? By making sure we pay people correctly and that they're accounted correctly. A drives the efficacy and efficiency. And again, I don't want to over-communicate, because I don't think there's such thing as over-communicating the efficacy, efficiency, procedures, and we're building that. And before I end my presentation here, one element, one big initiative that, again, Dr. Ventura has really directed us to move forward with our respective schools and departments is that we remind people that we coexist, that Ms. Lang and myself, Ms. Lang's department, my department, our departments, we coexist. Again, we cannot over communicate that. It's very important, because what happens in payroll and in business and finance, it doesn't stay there. It comes to HR, What happens in HR in terms of human capital doesn't just stay in HR. We have to coexist and build those bridges. I like to say that there's already bridges there. We just need to build them, straighten them. We have great staff members in both departments, but I think the message to our leaders, our campus leaders, our department leaders, is that we drive this process with EPARS. Very, very important from a systematic standpoint. R embraces consistency, and in T, it allows tracking of processes regarding time sensitivity. Last but not least, we're talking EPARS already. I really am appreciative of that. I know when Dr. Ventura and I talk in cabinet, we are talking EPARS. We've had leaders say, oh, you know what, I didn't send the EPAR, including yours truly. Hey, when we deal with the personnel matter, I didn't send the EPAR. Oops. So we're talking systems, and I think that's really, really important for our community. Thank you.
Okay, does the board have any questions regarding the last presentations? Budget, technology?
Yeah, Madam President.
Go ahead, Mr. Garwell.
Okay, Mr. Arenas, when we're doing, I think it was on slide 83, you don't have to go back to it. I just have a question for you. And I actually like your comments about, the guest teachers. So I think that puts a little bit better positive spin on everything, right?
Yes, sir.
My question to you is that because things have changed now where guest teachers can now stay on longer than 120 days, have we been able to somehow sign, our guest teachers up to stay with us because of that change in the law?
Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Gerwell, that's a great question. It's, breaking news, right? To think this week that came down. Yes, sir. And we are moving on that. And what we do find is our cohort of guest teachers, Mr. Gerwell, and Madam President, members of the board, is that they stay here. But however, in the spirit of transparency, we need to expand and get that cohort to be bigger even, if that makes sense. But yes, I do see that, and I do see this as an incentive and really a great opportunity, Madam President, members of the board, and Mr. Garwal, that I think that's going to expand. And you know, I'm so sorry to continue the C word COVID, but it has impacted all of us. Many of our, you saw the report in the fall, you know, many of our guest teachers are retirees. I know that Isaac, our community here, had many more retirees that were coming back, and they loved their campus life. They wanted to, you know, guest teach for 2-3 days. But unfortunately, you know, things have changed their lives. So, but I'm a half full versus half empty person, Mr. Garwal and members of the board. So I'm pretty optimistic about it looking better.
Excellent. So yeah, that does ensure the efficiencies and the accountability piece, right? Because now we have the continuity of the guest teacher staying with us. So thank you for that. Ms. Lang, I have just a couple of questions for you. In the presentations, and I appreciated all that you presented, my questions are specifically around audits. So do we currently submit our audits to the county superintendent?
Mr. Garwal, in the past, we have not been required to submit our audits to the county superintendent. However, beginning this year, we do have to submit our audits to the Department of Education, who will then post them on their website. Once our audit is complete, which should be within the next couple of weeks, we will bring it before the board for you to accept the audit. We will present any findings that we have, and once you have voted on it, then we will upload it to the Department of Education to post it on their website. We have not been required to send it to the county schools at all.
Okay, and then from that, it gets moved over to the Auditor General. Is that correct? The audit?
Yes, sir. Our audit is every year is submitted to the Auditor General. And our auditors do that directly themselves. Once it's finished and we approve it, then it gets sent to the Auditor General once it's completed. And there's parts of it we have to submit to the federal government for our single audit with our federal programs.
Okay, no, great. And it just the reason I bring it up, Ms. Lang, is because one of the bills that had just passed on the 25th of this month out of committee is Senate Bill 1164, and it pertains to school audits and financial records and budgets. So there's going to be some changes or language that's in there that may cause some changes for us. So I'll continue to track that. That's SB 1164, and in particular, it's asking for the accounting that's performing the audits of school districts to submit their reports directly to the county's school superintendent and the Auditor General. So our auditors, if this bill goes through, would be required to submit those directly to those two entities. So just something to kind of keep an eye on.
And we will. And Mr. Garwal, I'll give you an interesting commentary on that. And I find it interesting that now they're requiring us to, or want us to submit our audits to the county schools office, and yet over the last couple of years, we used to always have to submit our budgets to them, and now the county school says, you don't have to submit them to us anymore. We'll just pull them off of the Arizona Department of Education website so that we have a copy of them. They don't ask us to submit them, but now they're going to turn around and want us to submit our audits. I find that rather interesting. When, again, they're going to be posted on the Department of Education website, and they can pull them off of there just like anybody else can. So I'm interested to see how this all unfolds.
Yeah, I don't think it's the county school superintendent that's asking for it. It's the legislature that's starting to push on it. So, again, you know, I'll keep an eye on SB 1164. I'm curious as how this is going to, you know, go through. But it did get out of committee yesterday or the day before, so I'll keep tracking it. Thank you. That's all of my questions and comments, Madam President.
Thank you. Does the board have any comments regarding the strategic plan questions? No? Well, I just want to say something really quick. Mr. Arenas, I am real quick because I know that you mentioned one of our former teachers, Ms. Valdivia, and really quick, she was also my son's kindergarten teacher. And I know she left us, and wanted to come back and partner with us. So that's great that, we do all this partnering with the colleges. And Mr. Morales, are you there? Is he there?
Yes, I am, Madam President.
I've been all these projects that we're doing. I think it's great. It's amazing. So I just want to commend you and your staff on. I did see the increase on the work orders, but like you said, last year was kind of with COVID. But thank you for for maintaining our schools and keeping it nice for our students and safe. And other than that, Ms. Lang, thank you for your presentation as well. I know that, we've been awarded many times because of you and your team, so thank you for that, for keeping us out of the weeds. And Dr. Ventura, I just want to thank all of you for your time and for dinner, Nancy for everything, Ms. Carizosa, our technology team for doing this as well. I know it's a long night. And I guess we're going to be doing this again in when, Dr. Ventura? March 24th. So let us know what you guys want for dinner. And so now, if there is no further questions, let's go back to our adjournment. So 7:30, meeting adjourned.